Well, greetings, friend. I hope you're having a great day. Don't rightly know what time you're picking up the broadcast, but if it's morning, noon, evening, whenever, I hope you're having a great day. I hope you will have a great day. I'm Steve Andrews from over at the Meadow Drive Baptist Church here in Huntsville, and I just want to come to you to encourage you about life. I've been pastoring there at Meadow Drive for several years, and we got a great group of folks there, and God's been good to us. He's blessed us. But you know, we've been through a lot of ups and downs in our own personal lives, and got people that are going through some valleys right now, and up, down. But whatever happens, you are unstoppable unless you stop yourself. That's why I call this broadcast the Unstoppables broadcast, because Paul said, he said, I can do all things through Christ, which strengtheneth me. He said, I can do all things. And I've said before, how would that job interview go if you went in there and sat down and they said, what can you do? And you said, well, I can do all things. I can do anything. I can do anything you need me to do. I hadn't thought about this, but years ago when I was doing repos, I worked for Alabama Auto Adjusters, and Josh Parker was the owner. He's running it. His dad had started it, and Josh is running it. Josh is a great guy, great friend, and but he'd sit back there and he'd try to think up ways to make more money. He's thinking about ways to get more money, which is fine. He's a businessman, that's fine. But he come up with this idea that he wanted us to get a hygrometer and check the antifreeze in every car, every vehicle we picked up. It could be the middle of July, and he wanted us to check the antifreeze so he could tack a $5 surcharge or something onto the bill of when he sent the bill in for repossessing the vehicle. Well, I thought that was about ridiculous, and I told him it was. I said, Josh, that's crazy. He said, son, just sign the paper and send it back in, because they'd send, it's like he's working for IBM or some big company. You're working for NASA, and this fax comes in and says, here's the new rule. You got to obey this rule. And and then we had to sign the paper that we got the new rule, and we were going to abide by it, and we'd send it back in. Well, that was just silly to me. Now he said, well, no. I said, no, when we want to protect the cars so that the block doesn't crack or the radiator doesn't bust. And well, I can understand that in the wintertime, and you want me to do it in the wintertime, that's fine, but I'm not doing it during the summer. but I got my hygrometer, and so I checked for the first week or so. I checked the level of antifreeze, and it's good to 10 below. It's good to 0. It's good to 32 degrees, whatever it was. And so I made a mental note of the average of what it was, and then I quit checking them, and I just wrote it on the paper. And you say, you use lying. Well, that's before I got right with God, and I wouldn't do it now. Anyway, let's go. So I would just write on there, and that rule fell by the wayside after just a few months, because I don't think the clients wanted to pay for something silly like that. But and it's funny too. They would send me these things that I had to sign to say that I got this new rule, and I understood it and I'll abide by it. And that, if it's a good rule, if it's something I needed to know that made sense to me, I'd sign my name to it. But if it was silly rule, and especially this one of checking the antifreeze during the summer, I'd sign Jim Bags, or I'd sign Chester Drawers, or Rusty Wagon, Hell and High Water. I just make up, and they told me later, the secretary who got the stuff off of the fax machine, she'd get that, she'd see what I'd signed, and she'd go in there to Josh, she'd say, look at this, look what he signed. He said, just go file it away. That's Steve, just go file it away. That's like when Regina and I went to the grocery store the other day. We went to Walmart, and was walking in the garden center, and I was walking past this big, handsome black guy standing there. And he had a blue shirt on, said Brother Rick Patton. And as I walked past him, I was thinking, Rick Patton, that's the name, sounds familiar. And then I realized that I had gone to school, graduated with Ricky Patton. and they call him Snowflake. I asked him, said, what do they call you, Cotton something? He said, no, Snowflake. But I said, I turned around and I said, Ricky Patton? And he turned around and looked at me, and I said, Steve Andrews. And he grinned. He said, from Bob Jones. I said, that's right. He leaned over and took my hand, and he said, are you still crazy? Regina nearly fell out. Now, I can behave when I need to. I mean, if you need me for a funeral, I'll behave at that funeral. I'll say good things about you. I won't lie about you. It's like... like a fella, this fella died, and he was just mean as a snake. He was mean to his wife, mean to his kids, mean to his family, wouldn't provide for them, and so he died, and the preacher got up there, and he's talking about this fella, and the little widow and the children sitting on the front row there, and he's talking about how good he was. Said he's a great fella. Said he's just a great guy, great father, great husband, great provider. And the widow leaned over to her son and said, would you slip up there and look in that casket and make sure we're at the right funeral? Now, if I have to do your funeral, I'll behave. I may not want to, but I'll behave. My mother told me, hey, Mom, I know you watch this. Mom called me the other day because I said, hey, Mom. She said, I just called and say hey back. But when my grandmother passed away, I did the funeral. And I told my mom, I said, now I'm gonna cut up in the funeral. She said, you better not. I said, no, I'm gonna cut up a little bit. I did a little bit. I said something like grandmother was always there for us. She was always there. Anytime you needed anything, you could call her and she'd help you out. I said, my brother Matt, whenever he got in jail, he'd call grandmother and she'd bail him out. And love you, Mom. but I'm not gonna lie about you, but I'll sure try to help you, and I'll be serious if I need to be serious. If you need to be serious, but you call me weddings, funerals, bar mitzvahs, whatever it is. You say, what in the world are you gonna do at a bar mitzvah? I don't know. I've never been to a bar mitzvah. I don't rightly know what it is, except it's a time where the Jewish people, you go from being a child to an adult. It's kind of a watershed thing. I know what I could do. I could do how the Grinch stole Hanukkah. We know how the Grinch stole Christmas. How about how the Grinch stole Hanukkah? All the Jews down in Jewville loved Hanukkah a lot. The Grinch, a Gentile, however, did not. He'd sit on his perch and look down at the Jews. Hanukkah's coming, and I'm not amused. I don't like their customs, their dreidels of clay. I must stop Hanukkah before the first day. Or they'll light their menorahs, and they'll dance their horrors. They'll eat luffist and roast beast and give out their toys. They'll sing and they'll dance, and the always. So he waited till nightfall and crept through their doors. Took down decorations from ceiling to floors. He stole all the toys and loaded his truck. He stole the menorah, the miserable schmuck. Then Grinch said, I'll show them how mean I am. And he switched the roast beast with a honey-baked ham. With his duties completed, the Grinch turned to go when he heard a small voice from the bedroom cry, no! Grinch then met someone who changed the whole story. The Finkelstein boy, the first name of Maury. Hey, Meshuggah, enough is enough. Hanukkah won't go away 'cause you've stolen our stuff. It's not about candy and presents and nuts. It's a time for reflection, you big stupid putz. And so Grinch took a seat and he listened to Maury. As he told him of Hanukkah, he told the whole story. Grinch was riveted by the tale so great of one day of oil that lasted for 8. I like you, precocious young squirt. I like you so much, I think I'll convert. Grinch knew exactly just what he should do. He contacted a rabbi and soon was a Jew. And when the Jews down in Jewville sat down for their feast, the Grinch in a yarmulke carved the roast beast. Yep, I believe I can do it. We call this Unstoppables because you are unstoppable. The only thing that can stop you is you. The only person who can stop you is you. I don't care where you are, what you're doing. Your limitations on yourself are the only limitations that you have. I was thinking about David. King David in the Bible before he became king, and in 1 Samuel 17, I think it is, around in there. David had to go. He was faithful. And think about David for a minute. He's the 8th son of Jesse. He's the youngest boy. Now he's out there, he's out there in the fields keeping the sheep, and Samuel shows up. This is before 1 Samuel 17. But Samuel shows up. God had told Samuel, said, I want you to go anoint a king, and it's in Jesse's family. So he goes over there, and he comes to the house, and he says, Jesse, one of your boys is going to be king. And Jesse said, well, that's got to be my oldest boy. He's my pride and joy. And so he sent for Eliab, and he came in, and the Lord whispered to Samuel, said, that's not him. So he brought the next one in, said, that's not him. Brought all 7 of his boys in, said, that's not none of them. And so they're standing there looking like, well, it's got to be one of us, isn't it? And Samuel says, is this all your boys? He said, oh man, I got one boy. Yeah, I forgot about old David. And he sent for David, and when David came in, the Lord spoke to Samuel and said, this is the one who's going to be king. This is the one who you're going to anoint. So Samuel anointed him. And so, David was kind of looked over by his family. Well, the older boys went off to war, fighting against the Philistines, and Jesse says, David, take some food and take them to your brothers. And so he goes, takes the food. He's all excited. He wants to see the battle, just like any young man might be. David wasn't old enough to be in the army, but the other brothers were. Most of them were. And so he gets there, and he goes out there, brings the food to the brothers, and he's talking to them, and that's when Goliath shows up. I'm going to break his chair one of these days. Goliath shows up, and there we go. Goliath shows up, and he starts taunting the children of Israel and Saul and the God of Israel. And David hears it, and David says, somebody needs to go out there and dot his I's. somebody needs to go out there and take care of that fella. And David's older brother, he gets on to him and says, oh, you just here to see the battle. And I always think, what battle? You just came down to see the battle. We know how you are. You just mischievous. And so he tried to get David to stop being David. Now, David had been faithful to the Lord. He was the sweet psalmist of Israel. He had learned to walk with the Lord while he was out keeping sheep, and he, he was a singer and a songwriter, and he just loved the Lord. And when somebody started attacking his God, he took it personal because he loved God. And he didn't like the idea that Goliath, he said, somebody needs to go out there and whoop that fella. And so Eliab said, you can't do it. Eliab's saying, David, don't be David. Don't let anybody change you from who you are. Don't let anybody tell you what you have to be and what you have to do in order to serve God. You be you. I say it all the time. Present your body a living sacrifice. Present your body. God made you just like you are. You are not an accident. You are on purpose. Everything that's happened in your life up to this point can be used, but don't let anybody change you. Don't let anybody take the distinctives away from you that makes you you. Because if you try to be somebody else, that job's already taken. You're the only one that can be you. You're the only one that can do what you're made to do, so just do it. I tried behaving one time. I didn't like it, so I quit. Now, I do the best I can, but I enjoy life. I enjoy it. I have a great time. Life is good, I'm telling you. Life is good. Don't let anybody rob you of the distinctives that make you you. You've got a job to do. You may be the black sheep of the family, but wear that label proudly. I do. Oh, that's just Steve. He got hit by a car. But, David showed up, and his older brother said, no, go get out of here. Go home. His older brother tried to keep him from being who he was. He was a man who was willing to stand up for the Lord. So somebody hears that he's talking about going to kill that giant, because nobody's going. And remember, they had chosen Saul. They said, we want somebody that's head and shoulders above everybody else so he can go out and fight our battles. And Saul was cowering in the trenches with everybody else. And so they heard that David was willing to go out there and fight. And so they take David to Saul. And David says, I'll go out there and fight that fella. And King Saul, he says, boy, you can't go out there and fight him. You can't go out there and fight him. You're just a youth, and he's been a soldier from his youth. And David said, listen, I killed a bear, and I killed a lion. They came to take sheep from the flock, and I killed them. And he said, that uncircumcised Philistine will be just like one of them. And so Saul says, well, all right, here, put my armor on. Now remember, Saul was head and shoulders above everybody else. So he's a big old strapping fella. You know, he's a big old Hulk Hogan kind of a guy, Andre the Giant kind of a guy, big old fella. And he's putting his armor on David. And he's trying to get him, he's trying to, fight my way. Be like me. If I was like you, I'd be hiding in the trenches. I know what I'm going to do. I know how I'm going to do it. I've used a sling before. And see, David had to fight his brother to say, hey, I'm going out there. I'm going to do what's right. David had to fight with Saul. In a sense, he had to argue with him and say, look, Saul said, put it on. And David put it on, but he said, I can't wear this stuff. I've not proved it. I've not used it. See, don't let anybody rob you of the distinctives that made you you. Don't let anybody rob you of who you are. Don't let anybody tell you what you can or can't do. Don't let anybody, they may set limits, but you don't have to. Later on, 2 Samuel 15, I think it is, David brings the ark back to the, it's not 2 Samuel 15. It's in the Bible. Just open it anywhere. It's good all over it. But David brings the ark back to Jerusalem, and when he brings it back in, he takes off his kingly garments and he dances before the Lord. He's praising God, he's shouting, he's hollering, he's happy with what God's doing. And his wife, Michal, sees him. She looks out the window and sees him. She despised him in her heart. She said, oh man, he's embarrassing the family. Where have I heard that before? So he's embarrassing the family. and I was just thinking, I was going somewhere one day and I went over Eastview and I turned left on Highlands. And as I went through the four-way stop, I looked to the right and Billy Pierce lives down there at the end of that street, at dead ends of his street, and he was out in the yard. So I backed up and I turned the corner and I'm flashing the lights. I got the flashers going and I'm flashing the light. I'm blowing the horn and I pull up there and Billy Pierce looks and I stick my head out the window. He goes, some things never changed. Listen, life is good. It really is. It's good. But Michal said, David comes in, she goes, boy, you embarrassed us today. You really embarrassed us today. I mean, you are something else. And David said, listen, I did it before the Lord. I did it before the Lord, and I'm going to continue to do it before the Lord. I'm going to let God use me. I'm going to let God use me and I don't care what you think about me. I'm doing it for the Lord. I'm doing it for Him. I want you to see that if God can use me, God can use you. He can use anybody. You are unstoppable unless you stop yourself. Because if you go in 2 Samuel, I won't say chapter 11, but David, it says, and there's a time when the kings went forth to war, and David sent Joab, but David tarried still at Jerusalem. Now, David had been anointed king and he'd taken the throne, and now he's king. He's in the palace. And it was a time when kings go forth to war. David, this is your job. Get out there and do it. Get out there and do your job. Get out there and do what you're supposed to be doing. And David said, I'm going to lay out today. I'm not going to go to battle. And David stopped himself by not doing what he's supposed to be doing. He sent Joab. Listen, nobody can do the job you can do. You've got a job to do. You've got something that only you can do. And you can't send somebody else to do it. Nobody can do it like you can do it. And so stay busy. But he said, I'm just going to lay out today. And the Bible says that he got up in the evening. Now here's the guy, he's supposed to be king. You're supposed to be out on the battlefield, but here you are sleeping in the daytime. And he gets up in the evening, and he goes out and he sees Bathsheba bathing. And some people have given her a hard time, said, well, she shouldn't have been out there like that, on her roof like that, knowing that the king was there. Wait a minute. The king was supposed to be gone to battle. Her husband was gone to battle. And you know what happened. David went into sin. So what I'm saying is, look, you are unstoppable. You can reach down within yourself and you can bring the positive ideas, the positive attitude, the positive... Look, if you'll just realize that it's going to work out. Everything's going to work out good. You just stay faithful. Keep doing what's right. Keep on the... what is it? The Aretha Franklin song said, accentuate the positive, eliminate the negative. And I'm not being Pollyanna, I'm not saying everything's going to work out. Sure, we all have tough times, things come, but you don't have to let those things control you. You can have the have the control over your life, and don't let circumstances control your life. You can have a great life because you got a great life. You just got to recognize it. You know, when God called Moses, God said, "What is that in thine hand?" I used to say, he said, "What is in thine hand?" But he said, "What is that in thy hand?" In other words, the Lord recognized what he had, and he's asking Moses, "Do you recognize what you got?" Of course, Moses argued with him and didn't want to go, but he eventually went. Anytime you argue with God, you're going to lose. You may as well just give up and go. Listen, friend, I'm going to close out for this broadcast, but I want to encourage you. I want to encourage you to live for the Lord. Do what's right. Live right, do right, and be right. If you've never trusted Christ as your Savior, get in touch with us. I'll be glad to talk to you. We have a food pantry at the church. If we can help you out there with that, get in touch with us. I got some new hardware or software I'm going to run across here, so hopefully the address and the contact information will come up. But if the broadcast is a blessing to you, we'd like to hear from you, because a lot of people are sacrificing to put this broadcast on, and it'd be good to know that you're out there and you're listening. We ain't asking for your money. We just want to hear from you. Just say, "Hey, yeah, I heard that nutcase on there, and he's really funny. I can't believe that God had used him." Say amen right there. God bless you, neighbor. Have a great day, and if we can help you, get in touch with you. You are unstoppable unless you stop yourself. Amen. God bless you. Goodbye.